Hello friends, I am here again with a new content, with a new story, Great Expectations, a great novel written by a great novelist Charles Dickens. Before the novel, first of all, have a look on the characters of the novel. And characters are Pip, Mrs. Joe Gargery, Mr. Joe Gargery, Abel Magwitch, Competition, Miss Havisham, Estella, Biddy, Orly, Mr. Jaglers, Matthew Pocket, and Herbert Pocket. Now start the story. Great Expectations is a remarkable novel written by Charles Dickens. It is his 30th novel and his penultimate complete novel. Charles Dickens was an English and social critic. He created some of the world's best known fictional characters and is regarded by many as the greatest novelist of the Victorian era. Great Expectations is the story of a young blacksmith boy Pip and his two dreams, becoming a gentleman and marrying the beautiful Estella. Pip is an orphan boy and he is living with his foul-tempered sister Mrs. Joe Gargery and her gentle spaniel Joe Gargery in southeast England. In his childhood, one Christmas Eve, Pip meets an escaped convict, Abel Magwitch, at the grave of his mother. Abel Magwitch scares Pip to steal food and file from his sister's pantry and Joe's blacksmith shop. Pip steals food and metal file for him and he gives it Abel Magwitch. Another morning, Pip and Joe Gargery see soldiers capture the convict on the march edge where he wrestles with another escaped convict Competition. As Pip had helped Abel by stealing food and metal file for him, Abel confesses that he will must help Pip in his further future. Soon after, Pip is invited to start visiting wealthy Miss Havisham and her adopted daughter Estella at his house. Miss Havisham was abandoned by her fiancé 20 years prior and she is still wandering in her wedding dress. She seeks revenge on men by raising Estella to mercilessly break hearts. Pip falls in love with Estella, but Stella's disdain for Pip's commonness inspires Pip's dissatisfaction with life as an apprentice blacksmith. He, however, wants to find Stella as her wife, so he decides to make herself by her standards. Orlick, the servant of Joe Gargery, hates his master and one day he attacks on the head of Joe's wife, Mrs. Joe Gargery. Due to this sudden attack, she loses her memory. His Pip's friend Biddy then takes care of his sister. Biddy loves Pip, but he loves Stella and rejects Biddy's love. One night, Mr. Jaglers, the lawyer, comes to Pip and says that an unknown person wants to help Pip in his education. After listening Mr. Jaglers, Pip becomes happy to think that this unknown person is Miss Havisham. But he was unaware of the reality that that unknown person was not Miss Havisham. After finding this unknown help, Pip wants to fulfill his old dreams and desires to find Stella. He goes London, leaving his brother-in-law upset. He also makes upset Biddy. In London, Pip lives with Herbert Pocket, the son of Matthew Pocket. He spends enough time in London and due to his carelessness, he becomes extravagant. In London, Pip's brother-in-law comes to meet him, but he ignores Joe Gargery and insults him. So Joe Gargery returns his village. After some days, Pip gets the news of his sister's death, and he returns his village on his sister's funeral. Abel Magwitch comes to Pip, and he speaks that the truth. He himself is the real helper of Pip. Mrs. Havisham is not the real helper. After listening the truth, Pip becomes sad that he was helped by a victim. So he decides to leave the village. But for one time, He goes to Stella and asks her all the truth of her marriage with Bentley Drummond. Stella is now the wife of Drummond. Mr. Jagler speaks the truth that Stella is not the real daughter of Miss Havington. Suddenly, Miss Havington's clothes catch fire and she dies. Jagler tells Pip that Stella is the daughter of Molly and Abel McVitch. Pip returns to London, but he becomes bankrupt due to his debt. His brother-in-law pays for all his debts, and both returns their village. Here Pip's all expectations are broken again when he knows that Biddy has married to his brother-in-law, Joe Gargery, so he decides to go abroad with Herbert. After spending 11 years in abroad, Pip returns as becoming a merchant. In his village, he sees the carbon copy girl of Stella. He finds that this carbon copy girl is Stella's daughter, but he also finds the news of Bentley Drummond's death falling off a horse. Here we can see that Stella's bride was also broken into pieces. She asks Pip that he still loves her. The novel ends with the lines, "What is the use of flowers when spring is over?" It is Dickens' second novel after David Copperfield to be fully narrated in the first person.